UNC beat NC State. You just heard the highlight. Jalen Washington sealed it with the block. He also had the go-ahead bucket at the other end. Yesterday, during Copper Drop, for those of you that weren't listening, Dennis asked if UNC will make the NCAA tournament, and I dropped it. And insight into my brain, when those tough decisions happen, right? Yeah. And you want a little window into my brain? No, you don't, but I'll keep the side that won't scare you. When you have to make those tough decisions, and I don't like making them, I like rooting for all the local teams. I run it over a couple times, right? Maybe read a couple articles, look in the stats. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I realized there was a little bit of a blind spot. So I don't necessarily think I'm changing my mind, but I do want to bring up something that they have going for them that I can work with. And when I say I can work with, it means when it becomes bubble time and we're doing the bracketology arguments and I want to sit somewhere and yell into a microphone all the reasons why UNC should be in, and you got to pick, they got to be over, I don't know, Mississippi State or something, right? Just some other bubble team from some other conference. And I don't know if they're a bubble team or not. There is something I can work with. The thing that drove me towards saying, like, they're going to have to win the ACC championship. They're backed all the way into a corner. If they're going to have to beat Duke maybe twice to get in was they don't have – they essentially have one thing you might consider a good win. Right? All of the games against the worthwhile opponents in their non-conference schedule, they weren't able to pull out the win. They played one of the few good ACC teams, at least thus far, in Louisville. They lost that game. And I'm looking at it going, they have UCLA and that's it. How can I be that confident in a team that doesn't really have any good wins? But in my kind of reassessing, I realized that's only half the story. They also don't really have any bad losses. They have a handful, like a decent amount of L's in the win-loss column, but the graphic that I always think of, right, when you get to bracketology season, there's like Seth Greenberg, Jay Billis, and a host on ESPN. They have some graphic that looks like a chalkboard that says bracketology's in session, and they put up the graphic for each bubble team, and it says good wins, bad losses, top wins, worst losses, whatever they end up labeling them. And you want to have a couple good non-conference games. You want to have like a massive conference road game in your good wins. And the bad losses, I don't know what you put there for UNC. I have all of their losses in front of me and their current rankings in the AP poll. They lost to number 9 Kansas, number 1 Auburn, number 12 Michigan State, number 4 Alabama, number 5 Florida, and Louisville, who's also receiving votes in the AP Top 25, and you could argue is the second best team in the ACC right now. So they've lost to nothing but top 12 teams and top 2 or 3 in the ACC teams. That's all they've lost to. There's not a bad loss in that bunch. I can work with that. When I'm making an argument, I know where I'm living if I'm arguing for UNC right now. I'm not talking about how how many wins. The wins, they've proven that they are good. They've proven that they are better than the other also-rans. They win the games they should win. I can work with that. And that's, unfortunately, you put that on the line a lot more than you do the big wins. In the ACC, if you're going to beat the teams, you should win. If you're going to beat the bad teams, shoot, that's going to be every game. Cal tonight. It's a perfect example. Cal's not scaring anybody, right? Cal's not gonna dominate anybody. Win the game. Because the other thing that UNC has happened that has drawn down my confidence in them is the games they should win, they sometimes squeak them out. They beat Dayton by 2, Georgia Tech by 3, Notre Dame by 1, NC State by 2. So it doesn't necessarily even feel like they're a team that has no bad losses. Because some of those games, it's like, I mean, I know you won, but yikes. But they have avoided disaster. They've found a way, despite not playing their best, to win the games they should win. Cal is another opportunity to get a bad loss or to do what you're supposed to do. Hubert Davis, their head coach, talked about the scouting report on their new conference opponent, the Cal Bears.
From an offensive standpoint, they do a really good job of getting to the free throw line, and they shoot a really good percentage as a team. So, just like, when we played NC State, one of the emphasis was to be able to defend them without fouling. And so that's going to be huge for us on Wednesday against Cal. They're also a great offensive rebounding team. And so, we gave up 16 offensive rebounds against NC State. That's just not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be a recipe for success against Cal, because even their guards get to the offensive glass. And so those are two areas defensively that we got to be locked in on Wednesday in order to have success against Cal.
Here's my scouting report on Cal. It's a good matchup for UNC. They only have, or let me phrase this a different way. Nobody on their team that plays more than 14 minutes is over 6'9". When you're a team that has struggled with size, when you're a team that has struggled with rebounding, and when you're a team that just had Jalen Washington put together his first double-double and you're hoping to build off of it, I think you want a team that's near the bottom of the standings and doesn't bring a whole bunch of size. They do have Peja Stojakovic's son, who I think we know what the scouting report is on that one, right? Your last name's Stojakovic.
Shooting threes.
There you go. So I can tell you where I think maybe Seth Trimble will be if he's back to his normal defensive self. I can tell you where I think Ian Jackson will be if Trimble needs a breather. Go guard the Stojakovic. Go guard the shooter.
Hubert Davis did say earlier this week he thinks that Ian Jackson can be an elite defender as well.
And we know Seth Trimble can, and Hubert Davis talked about Trimble working his way back to top form after missing a couple games a week or two ago with an injury.
You just have to find a rhythm. The only way that you can find a rhythm in basketball is actually playing. The only way that you can get in shape, basketball shape, is playing basketball. And I was really happy with Seth's activity. Especially in the second half. You were right. He was able to get steals, deflections, get into the open court, which, Seth is really gifted and really good at. And, it just takes time to get back into that rhythm. And I'm just happy that Seth is back, because he is a huge piece of our team. And we need him in so many different areas out there on the floor, and I'm just glad that he's back in the lineup.
If you're working your way back in, I do think defense is kind of a good place to start, right? The jumper, all right, working your way back in. The explosion, we're good. Defense, right? I think that's a good place for him to start. So I wouldn't be surprised if he draws some, maybe not as many minutes in the toughest assignments, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trimble makes his impact in this one on the defensive end. So I say all of that to say this. I want to argue for you, UNC. I want to, and I want to have all of the national analysts be arguing for you to make the NCAA tournament if you're unable to win the ACC tournament. And the way that you give the most ammunition to the people that are interested in defending you in bracketology is to continue no bad losses. I want that graphic that has 3 best wins, 3 worst losses. I want the best wins to have UCLA and whatever else you can put together. And I want the bad losses to have like top 25 teams. Mm-hmm. Like I want the worst loss to be the second best team in the ACC. Those things you can build off of.
Can't deny their strength of schedule.
And it's
at least out of conference.
A little gift and a curse there, right? Maybe you would win a few more if you didn't have that tough of a schedule, but I can explain the losses because it was that tough of a schedule. So, and you'll be battle tested when you get there because you would have faced, a whole bunch of really good teams.